All right, welcome. This is Adam, Ghost, or Ghost Dice, or whatever. I'm here with Nick and Avery today. Nick and Avery, say hello.
Hello. Howdy.
So we had a tournament at Area 51 this past weekend. Just a regular, 50-point steamroller. ADR was an option, and we recorded the finals tables. The finals table ended up being Lylyth2, played by Avery, versus Constance Blaize, who we will
Yeah.
refer to as Connie B because that sounds way cooler.
Yeah, man.
Most people aren't going to know what Constance Blaize does, so we're going to kind of go over that and talk about this matchup and this game. It ended up being fairly interesting, and not just because Constance was in there, but mostly because it was Constance Blaize actually playing a game.
Right.
Um, so we'll go ahead and start off by saying, Nick, why were you playing Constance Blaize?
Right. So I didn't know what to play for this tournament, so I rolled 2 dice and played 2 casters. I rolled a 14 and a 4, which translated to Constance Blaize and Shay. In this particular matchup, Shay feels a lot more fragile than Constance, as he is only, arm 14. He dies real fast and real hard.
And I assume with the
Constance,
Shay list, you ran his tier, right?
yeah, Pirate's Life Tier 4. Constance really surprised me quite a bit. I actually had to go out and buy her for this tournament, and
I remember you were gluing her like the morning of the tournament.
I was, yes. But for people who aren't aware of her, she's a Signar ally warcaster, which means you could take her in Signar or Mercs. If you take her in Signar, she's a Signar caster. You take her in Mercs, she's a Merc caster. She will work for Highborn only, which limits some of her list building, especially since her big thing is she's Morrowind, which means she hates Thamarites and Undead. Which means, off the bat, you can't take some of the best Merc stuff like Alexia, like Savio Acosta, like the Ragman. There are a lot of things that it stops her from doing
But I
that
know
really hurt her.
when you were originally building her lists, like that was your biggest pain, is you kept saying, if I could just take Savio or Alexia or both of them, she would probably be a really legit caster.
Yeah. So, that's where she falls down. She's got 3 really decent strengths: transference, her feet, and just a naturally decent threat. Not great, but decent.
For that threat that you'd mentioned, she does have Crusader's Call. I don't know if anyone else in Mercenaries has something
The
quite like
closest
that.
is Ashland with Quicken, and
Yeah.
Crusader's Call, less cost effective, but hits everybody. So, yeah, for Constance, I built a very infantry-heavy list. You can see there are, 4 separate units there?
Yeah.
Steelhead Help, Steelhead Cav, Hammer Dwarves, and Max Boom Howlers.
And the
Uh,
Hammer Dwarves are the Horgenhold Forge Guard.
yes. Speed 4, POW 11, Weapon Master. They try. By God, they try. The special thing about all these models is that the ones I really care about are ARM 16 plus. So that's all the dwarves, all the boom howlers, and the cav. Steelhead halberdiers are mostly there to die, or a couple of them are supposed to run and make it to flank.
But
But
with as cheap as they are, that's pretty easy to have them there for that.
pretty much at the same cost as a unit of press gangers. But reach, and they can CMA sometimes. They usually return like a point or two and fuel the feed.
Okay, great. And then Avery, you've got a Lylyth list here. The biggest thing that's going to stand out for your Lylyth list is obviously the Blightbringer. He brings a lot of really good stuff, but a lot of that stuff is going to be more infantry focused. Lylyth doesn't have really any infantry at all. At least no infantry that will take advantage of a lot of the the +2 arm and the +2 strength. So what went behind the idea behind bringing Blightbringer into this matchup?
The only reason Blightbringer is in this matchup is for -2 defense and removing tough, which is why I assume he wouldn't play Shay, and why I brought Lilith is because if he brought Shay, I was just going to punish his entire army. And so Blightbringer is a 5-inch pipe plate of fire and -2 defense, and the -2 defense, as well as to help Lilith's pincushion, because at Magic 5 it's just not reliable enough ever. Yeah. And so I have no problem shooting first with Blightbringer and missing my second shot, so I can get Lilith Magic 7 instead of Magic 5.
Okay, very nice.
I ADR'd the Naga out to bring in Deathstalkers to help me with infantry. just because once Constance Blaize comes out, I know the trick with the cavalry hitting my heavies is going to kill them, so I try to get rid of the cavaliers as fast as I could.
That is one thing interesting about your ADR list is that it's not the full 20 points. I mean, you do take advantage of the option to not fill out that entire 20 points in case you need to do something like swap in a Naga, or swap out a Naga for 2 Deathstalkers and just play a point down. I mean, you've already got the 2 Shepherds in there, so there's not really another 1-point model that could fit in there very well.
I could have put in Swamp Covers. Since he didn't have a ranged, really, assassination, I could have brought in Swamp Covers and not cast Shadow Pack.
Yeah.
Save me a Fury, which I'm already running hot anyway, so Fury is gold.
Fair enough. Alright, well, with that, kind of display what the list design looks like, we're going to go jump into the game. We're going to start off with the deployment here. Do you guys remember who won the roll to go first?
I believe I did.
And you chose to go first because you
And I
wanted
chose to go first. He stuck with the side with that hedge on it.
Okay.
And there I am nudging a hill. Hills are cool.
Yeah, those hills are pretty big. And then
They're
you've got
very
the
easy
I
to
Heart
manage.
Boobies flag right in the center.
Yeah, man.
Why not?
No, I have no reason why not.
You can see on my deploy there, it's Highborn Covenant, so all solos get AD. I guess the Anastasia Debray could have ambushed, but I never have that work.
Okay. So, Nick, what was your plan going into it originally?
So I debated right here for a few minutes on whether to feat turn 1 and try and pull out something large turn 2. And I ended up deciding against it, primarily because I knew he was going to eat a bunch of infantry this turn, but I thought there was pretty much no chance I was going to actually do any substantial work after that. You can see there we've got Halberdiers spreading out, and this is the 3rd game, so I've actually lost one of the Halberdiers mid-tournament, so there are only 9 instead of 10.
Very nice. So the main decision to not feed this turn was basically because while you would get the armor bonus as your halberdiers and other guys would die, you wouldn't be able to then use the souls that Constance would generate for that, or turn into focus to actually do anything, right?
Right. I could
Okay.
protect her for 2 turns, but it wouldn't meaningfully win me the game. You can see Cav and Varendrai coming up there. Cav base to base to get +2 arm from him because he grants Steelhead's defensive line, and close enough to as many different halberdiers as possible to get flanks off. With
Okay.
Lanissa coming up the side, ready to Hunter's Mark.
So why did you have Lunissa on that side for the Hunter's Mark on the Cav and the Halberdiers instead of on the other side with the Forge Guard?
Looking at his list, Boom Howlers and Forge Guard were going to eat a lot of fire from the Blightbringer. The Forge Guard can probably handle the blast damage from him. The Boom Howlers definitely can't. So it seemed very unlikely to me that they would ever get to charge him. Rather than trying to set up for a charge that wouldn't happen, I leveraged that power against the 2 Ravagors on the other side.
Okay, that makes sense. And so on this first turn, you're mostly focused on trying to keep some of your stuff safe.
Yeah.
What was most important that you wanted to keep safe? From the Deathstalker that rolled, a 1 and a 2 and missed a Steelhead.
All right. The absolute most important was the Cav. Even if everything else falls apart, the heavy Cav, as long as they can ensure flank, transference, and have a few souls, will kill almost anything.
Okay. So Avery, as we move into your turn, your Deathstalker, as we discussed, already missed his shot. It was very tragic. You had some really bad dice this turn. I watched this game afterwards, and I was envious that my opponent didn't have the same quality of bad dice, but it was very, very fun. But what were you going to focus on with your turn here? Because you did feed, and then you start shooting down models. What was your target prioritization focused on?
I was originally wanting to kill the halberdiers because I understand the flank bonus, and Ryan has killed me enough with his cav that I have a sudden prejudice against cavalry, and so I feel like the cavalry were fast enough to be the biggest threat, and the Forge Guard will get there eventually. I'll deal with him when the time comes, with Lylyth and the Blightbringer. Kind of boxed in the Blightbringer there from the back. If you notice, the hedge is in front of him. Speed 4 is a thing. and it quickly became a very large issue with me.
Large
So-
issue, big base. Ha.
Eh,
Good job.
Only I was as clever as I was good at this game.
All right, so,
So-
the Blightbringer is
taking-
getting up there and taking a few shots as well.
yeah.
He's taking pot shots. I really should have focused on Boomhowler himself. I know about Rage Howl. I remember Nick saying Rage Howl right before we played each other. He's like, I'm just going to Rage Howl your entire army. It's like, that's actually a legit strategy. So I'm pretty much just trying to shoot, get some lucky fire drifts. I go after Harlan Versh for some reason. I had really bad target priority. There's 3 1s for you. That seems good.
Yeah, that poor.
Overall, my dice strategy was very poor. A 4. There you go. That's better.
It was very entertaining to watch this and hear the conversation. I mean, like I could feel the frustration, and I didn't want to be like, "Aha, he's having such a bad day," but at the same time, it was kind of entertaining to listen to all the rage. And I mean, you're a pretty friendly guy, so you were still like, whatever. You know, I'm just gonna do this. I'm bad at this game anyway. I'm gonna get tacos. But it was fun to. It's just the kind of dice that you don't see very often sometimes.
It is what it is. I think I took a pot shot at the Gallant just because it's a warjack and big things threaten little beasts.
Yeah.
And later on, I was kind of thinking, I was like, that's just shield guard. I need to get rid of that later. So I kind of got ADD because I had so many targets. Good lord, look at all those
Yeah.
ones.
There were some more ones right there.
There were
He still died, but he only fell over, denying that second shot.
Yeah. You also had an order of activation issue with the Blightbringer where he went before any of the Ravagors had a chance to throw an animus on him, so you didn't get the fire effect on all of the 2 shots that he made.
Right.
And he would have caught a couple of guys on fire. And, you know, who knows what would have happened with that, but it's something that didn't get to happen because of that order of activation. In a matchup like this, do you find that the Blightbringer brings a lot to the table, though?
He can. The 5-inch pipeline of fire is fantastic. I guess you always have to hope for a lucky deviation. And the tough against the 4 tough Boomhowlers is always very, very fun to remove their tough and just get rid of them quickly.
Man, that's not fun. That's just mean.
I would say I had fun.
That's
as
fair.
this game goes. Eventually start shooting at the cab on the hill because, to me, a large base, I'm like, I'm just going to start setting them on fire. Or if I were to put those scalers out, maybe he won't run through even though it only does 1 damage.
You know, 1 damage on a 5-point model still matters quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
Now I'm shooting at his, I can't remember the solo's name, but I understand what he gives him is super good, so I take a shot at him eventually.
Varendrai in the back.
Yeah, Varendrai. He actually got very lucky and made tough himself, only getting knocked down.
Which didn't help my cause at all.
Yeah. He was even on fire, and I rolled the fire out. He got extravagantly lucky to survive.
Once you remind me what Varendrai does for the army, he works specifically for steelheads, right?
Right. Varendrai is a steelhead support solo. He has a handful of rules that are benefiting them and aiding the various types of steelhead. He gives all steelheads within his command of 9 defensive line, so +2 armor base to base. That's why those cav models there are hanging out close to each other, bringing them up to a pretty solid 18. And he gives everything within 3 inches of him, steelhead or not, tough. So they actually, like, tough cav are actually kind of irritating to deal with, I've found.
And those are just passive abilities. He doesn't have to do an action for them.
Exactly. He's also kind of personally threatening. If he charges and flanks any steelhead model, he gains. He's basically Mat 9 POW 11 Weapon Master, so he does pretty great work.
So in future versions of this list, I assume that you still have the steelhead, Halbs, Cav, and
Varendrai.
Varendrai in there.
Oh yeah. Because they really proved themselves to me. The stacking arm bonus and the ability to just constantly project threats as much as 15 away is real strong, especially when backed with transference.
I guess, real quick, just looking at what's happening, those 2 skaters are actually huge for me because Anastasia is still right in front of Lylyth, and I just blocked her getting to Lylyth and living the espionage dream.
I recall I looked for that, and she was just barely out. She walks through it later, I think.
She does.
But
Yeah, she does. You try to just wiggle it just barely through there, and you put it on the other side, and it turns out she can't quite fit in. Spoilers, I guess, but whatever. So Avery's first turn has ended. Your feet's gone. You've got a couple Scathers out there. There's still a lot on the table for you, Nick. Like there's not as much stuff that's dead as I would have expected.
No, there's not.
So you're looking at this turn. You've got more than you probably expected to have. Like what's going through your mind in reference to actually utilizing what Constance Blaize has to offer her army?
right. Well, first thing, I felt very positive about not feeding, because nothing had a charge here, except for these two halberdiers on him. They got Pathfinder for this charge, and they're about to 2-man CMA and with utterly. But that's okay. He's engaged by a couple of guys. They're jerks. I'm alright with that. Halberdiers are also in position there to get Pathfinder and run at Beasts next turn if needs be. That's pretty great. So really what this turn is about is he spent his big turn and didn't kill as much as he wanted to. Now I get to go up and make everything even harder to kill with his limited ability to do so. And there's me checking Stacy's range. And
Stacy's got it going on.
she does got it going on, but in this case, unless Gallant wanted to go push her, and I would have had to drastically wiggle out order of activations. So.
Okay.
You see there, I always try and keep one or two of the Cav models still on a hill. They are based F13. Rupert Carvolo can bring them up to based F14, and 16-18 is a pretty great stat line.
Yeah, it is. So you've got the Boom Howlers moving up there too.
Yeah. And then I wiggle them back together because I remember I only have a 12-inch control area, which is perpetually one of Constance's problems.
Yeah, and that's important this turn because this is going to be your feed turn.
Yeah. I'm trying to budge everything together, threaten as hard as humanly possible, while Constance basically upkept one spell, walked forward, and feeded.
What we saw there with Gallant, real quickly, is he gains a focus if he's within 3 inches of a Marlin model, right? Is it 3 inches?
Yeah. He has Accumulator the same way some Signar models and one Crix model has Accumulator. So
Yeah. So that wasn't him cheating. He was just like, hey, I get a free focus and I get to run up there and be a jerk engaging Lylyth.
yeah. Not that it strictly matters. She does parry and do whatnot, but sticking him up there forces him to move and makes him make some some tricky decisions, whether to try and kill Gallant or basically, if he ignores Gallant, Gallant will kill him. So.
Yeah. And you have the added bonus of since she has to move before she can shoot, she loses the aiming bonus.
Exactly.
So Avery, you're looking at the table now. Constance is feeded, and you decide that you want to go for the assassination.
There's way too much on the board for Lylyth to really chew through. I'd have to go backwards somewhere I don't want to go ever in this game. I believe he actually even rage howled here, so... Or no, you didn't. You ran them.
No, I had to run, yeah, in order to get everybody in command. So it was still another 4+ tough turn.
So I think I thought about... I was like, well, those calves are coming in, Halberdier's going to come in, so you'll neutralize 2 beasts unless I back up. The beast over there in the forest has... a boulder blocking line of sight. That was terrible positioning. So now I'm just trying to figure out if I can land a pincushion on you. Because your defensive stats at the start aren't that terrifying. I miss.
No.
And I do it again, another pincushion, because I'm desperate. I need an 11 on the second one.
10, I think, because she's def 15, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I mean, you still missed, but...
Yeah,
of course.
it was some bad luck.
So the first one goes, and I think I actually hit you, and so I'm like, man, this assassination's gonna work, yeah, because I'm boosting damage.
Well, on this one, not only do you hit, but you spike the dice, because there's dice off 7 at this point, because Constance was camping quite a bit, and you did 9 damage. So you spiked your dice pretty hard there. All those failed dice came back, and they got you back for that one shot. That's the only one that they really help you out with. But at least they did help you out once.
Right.
So they go up in there, they take a couple shots on her. She's on fire. She's taking a couple points of damage. And then the other one comes up there and doesn't really do anything to her. everything misses if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're figuring out the deviations and lighting some stuff on fire. Nick, you're hoping that they die at this point from
Yeah.
those.
And right there you see she picks up her first soul. And that's what I was kind of counting on. Is if he went for the assassination, he'd have to kill at least 2 or 3 models to clear line of sight issues, to really execute the plan, and killing even 2 models, her arm suddenly jumps, and she becomes really thick.
Which is huge.
And it's kind of interesting because looking at Constance, I know a lot of people. I mean, even before you started playing her, her feat seems very underwhelming. It's just kind of, you look at it and you kind of think, this is not going to do me very much because I have too much work that I need to do before I can actually get a return on that feat. But it sounds like from your playtesting that hasn't been quite the case. That's been better than you expected.
It has, very much so. And you were, that hedge really ended up boning you.
It did. I had to take it. But one thing I like about Constance is transference, and she's already starting to stack focus, is look at all those models with transference targets that are just,
Yeah.
I mean, my army's quickly dead. Well, there's obviously about to just get some sweet loving from that, whatever you throw at me.
In other games, has the feat been as deciding as it was in this one, where it really helped protect her?
Depending on the counter feat, if I can hold it till after a powerful feat, then Constance feat actually does some remarkably strong work. But say facing a control caster who can afford to wait for me, like a Kruger 2 or a Denegra, it suddenly hurts a lot more. Getting all of this armor and all of this focus and then not being able to do much with it because you're gimped somehow via a very controlling caster.
That's kind of fascinating too, how it's worked out better than you expected in that way.
Yeah, very much so. So here she picks up a total of 3 souls, which bumped her armor up to more than safe enough to survive fire on everything but a 12, I believe. So
yeah, that was one thing that you had to. You actually had the TO come over and say that's not how that works, and you read the card together and you realized, oh no, it does. Is that the souls stay on her and add to her armor before she replenishes focus, so whenever she's on fire, they help her survive the fire better.
Yeah. Boom Howlers did plan Get Out of the Way and Rage Howl, catching everything, and I believe both Shepherds failed for what it mattered.
They were scared.
They were.
Constance throws up Crusader's Call, comes up, she dropped 3 on that, put 3 on to Gallant, and now has 3 for transference, and we get a total of, I believe, 6 or 7 Hammer Dwarves on her.
And they get boosted 9s on the attack because of transference. So, with the 3 on Gallant, you end up having 3 of them get boost attacks, and, and spoilers, Lylyth has no focus on her. You hit the 9s, and she does end up dying after 2 of them hit.
Yeah.
And you end the game there. But this is... So you end up winning the tournament with Constance Blaize. that was
Weird
the
things
biggest...
happen.
That was the biggest thing that we, like, in terms of, I guess, news and interesting part about this tournament was that Constance Blaize ended up winning. And it's not like you just played her 1 round when you were list locked, you actually played her twice.
I did.
And then you started...
I played Shay round 1 and decided, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and try and play Connie into one of my worst matchups, which my second round was Veil 1. And she handled it like a champ, actually.
I think it was a strange Veil 1 list.
It was. It was a bit strange and techy, but Veil 1's always intimidating and powerful.
Yeah.
You can't treat her lightly or she'll do really nasty things to you.
So you're liking Constance then? Or you kind of...
I am, actually. It's a much more powerful armor skew than I imagined would be in Mercenaries. I mean, usually when I look for armor, it's stacking a Galleon up to 24, an Earthbreaker up to hard to melee because of rock walls, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And those are my bricks. This is just, I've got 10 dwarves. The newest incarnation of this list has 20 Forge Guard instead of 10.
Yeah, going back to the list, you said that you... Oops, sorry, one here. So you've got 20 Forge Guard instead of just 10?
Yeah. It's changed up a little bit, basically dropping some of the support to just add more meat. We've got the newest version of it has min halberdiers and boom howlers, adding in another Max Forge Guard, and dropping, I believe it's Versh and Stacy. And otherwise, it's more or less a very similar theory, just applying that, basically, I brought stuff that's base ARM 18. For one turn, it's going to be ARM 23 or so. If you can kill that with your anti-infantry tech, that's great. If you can't, I'm just going to come at you and see what happens.
Especially with transference.
Exactly.
Okay, great. And then Avery, with your list, is there anything that you think you would change with your list as it is right now?
I'm kind of on the fence still about Zuriel. I know everyone thinks the Animus is built for Lilith, but at 8 or 10, I really don't care too much about it. Occasionally I switch out all my ADR bench for 2 units of Croaks, and we'll say a Forsaken to help with my Fury, which I'm desperate for. Mm-hmm. But overall, I like Blightbringer. I'm not for sure if he's ever going to be locked in this list. I have talked about 4 Ravagors and ADRing a 5th because Haley 3 is an absolute nightmare for me. And I feel like 5 Ravagors and a Naga would be a perfect answer to her.
That does sound scary.
Is that because of her higher defense that Lylyth 3 or Haley 3 is such a problem?
Yes, high defense. She can hide behind her models. Incorporeal doesn't matter too much, but it's just Fury stretching me with my Naga.
Okay.
So it's mainly just an accuracy by volume with her.
There you go. Well, confirm that Constance Blaize is the best caster in Mercenaries right now.
Sounds right.
Maybe? Probably not.
Yeah.
Seems unlikely, anyway.
But at least better than expected in your experience from
better than expected.
From the
By no means, she doesn't quite deserve the reputation she's got.
Okay.
But if you're a Mercenaries player and have always thought to yourself, no, not Connie, she's well down on the Mercenaries timetable, she's terrible. She's got an interesting spot in this current meta, and she played into now 3 of my really scary matchups, and she's done really well in all of them, beating Veil 1, Lylyth2, and Kruger 2. That's pretty impressive for any caster, so...
That is quite the resume.
Yeah.
Kruger 2's not easy to play against, especially with he's got a feat that says you don't get to charge me this turn. And you have an army that wants to charge pretty heavily, so being able to have an army that can weather through that, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So, would you ever play her as a Signar caster?
I'm not sure. Signar gets to bring a few extra speed buffs and a few more armor upkeeps for her, but they lose access to some of the infantry she really wants.
They get Precursor Knights, though.
She can take Precursor Knights and Mercs.
Those are mercenary models?
They're Moro and allies.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, I could have taken them, but it's easy to forget, but they are spell warded. You can't do anything good to them.
They're still able to take advantage of transference, though, right?
They are, but they don't have reach. They're a little bit faster than dwarves, but they don't hit meaningfully harder. They're actually a little bit weaker except for 1 turn, and it's based on power swell, so if somebody snipes out the UA, then that goes away. The dwarves are generally just cheaper, touch slower, but crit smite and higher base mat, higher base pow, all pretty great.
Alright. Well, I think that's everything we got then. It was a good match, even though it was a bit shorter. You guys got to go to dinner a bit earlier than most of us. I ended up playing for quite a bit longer before I got to eat. But thank you very much for joining me on here. Any closing thoughts on the matchup or these 2 casters?
I had a ton of fun. I always love playing Avery.
Yeah, next time you get Abby, I think I'm 0-4 against you with Lylyth 2.
Yeah, I keep dropping strange things into your Lylyth 2, and it just keeps working for some reason, and I'm starting to get real concerned, so...
To be
Maybe
fair,
it's just me.
You pretty much only drop strange things.
But, a little bit. That's hardly the point. But yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thanks everyone for listening, and we'll go ahead and end here. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if you have any suggestions for improvement, any casters you want to see. If there's anything else at all that you want from this video series, Mostly we're trying to get a lot more focus on, not so much necessarily just the game, but just on the casters and list design and strategies behind them. So if there's anything you can think of that you'd like to see from it, just let me know, and I'll be happy to help. Thank you, and have a good night.
Well, bye.
Later.